Hey y'all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. Today we're going to talk about my unserious book buying habits because we have another book haul. I really did not expect to have another book haul this soon, especially because the number of books that I showed in my last book haul video was over 20. So I really wasn't looking to buy more books, but I recently created a pangobooks account, and if you would like to check out my shop, definitely make sure you check out the link in my description box. I recently created an account on pangobooks and I've been hooked ever since. I really was trying to go on there just to sell books that I plan on unhauling, but of course I started browsing and then I started adding stuff to my cart, and then before I knew it I bought all of these books that I'm going to show you today. I waited for them to come into the mail, and it's not as bad as the last haul, but it's still a decent amount of books that I had no business buying.
But you know, it's fine, it's fine.
We love books and we love book hauls, so we're just gonna roll with it. And before we dive right in, I'm not going to give the prices for every single book. Some of them I truly do forget and I just don't feel like going back into the app and like looking up, but just know that most of these books were under $10, and I definitely recommend checking out pangobooks if you are looking for books that are in good or great condition for an affordable price. The first book that I have here I feel like is actually very random because I've never talked about it here on my channel, but I've had this book on my radar for a while, especially after I watched one of Kayla's older videos. But the book that I'm referring to is Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. So this book has a lot of controversy and mixed reviews surrounding it. I think the story follows a set of characters during a nationwide blackout, and one of these sets of characters is a family, and they end up renting this Airbnb during a vacation of theirs. And before they can actually really get settled into this Airbnb, the couple who owns the Airbnb ends up coming back to the house and tells the family that they need to stay with them because there's something happening outside in terms of like the blackout, but I think there's also something else going on too. And so the couple tells them like, hey, we need our house back, we need to stay here because we literally cannot like find any hotels or anywhere else to stay. Family is like uncomfortable with the couple coming back to the home and wanting to stay with them. They're also confused about what is actually really going on outside and if there is a blackout or is the couple lying, etc, etc. So the story I think does have themes of race and bias, and also just like really trying to empathize and like understand people that are different from you. But a lot of people did not care for this book. I know that this has really low reviews on Goodreads, and I feel like a lot of people said that they found it kind of confusing, but some people also felt like the message that Rumaan Alam was trying to get across just did not hit the way that they thought it was supposed to hit. So I want to form my own opinion on this book because the plot and the premise sounds really interesting, and I also love this cover and the title of this book. I don't know what it is, but I just like love it. So I really hope that I, for one, end up understanding this book, and I also really hope that I end up enjoying it. I know that this is one of Kayla's favorites, so this does make me more intrigued off of that alone because I do take Kayla's recommendations pretty seriously. So yeah, I will definitely let you guys know my thoughts on this book when I do get around to it, but this is one of the first books that I added to my cart and got from pangobooks because it was really cheap, which I'm happy about. And the next book that I have here is The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. So for those of you who do not know, Elle Kennedy is the author of the Off-Campus series, and the Off-Campus series is a popular sports romance that I feel like has taken BookTok and Bookstagram by storm, but it does follow a group of hockey players and their romances and relationships throughout their college years. And The Mistake is actually the second book in the series, but you can read this as a standalone, and this is actually my favorite book out of the series to date. A controversial opinion because a lot of people who have read the Off-Campus series rank The Mistake as like their lowest book or their least favorite book, which I just don't understand how, because I felt like Elle Kennedy's writing really improved with this book, and John Logan and Grace, superior. I loved reading about their romance and them falling in love, and also just the cat and mouse game that they played. But I felt like Elle Kennedy did a great job at weaving in important topics in this story and handling them with care. One of the characters' parents has an alcohol addiction, and I just felt like she did a great job, like I said, at really handling that with care and really adding a lot of depth to this story and the characters. So I didn't have a physical copy of it because I read it on my iPad, and I originally rated this 4 out of 5 stars, but honestly I might go back to my story graph and bump this up to a 4.5 because I still think about this book to this day, and whenever I do read a new book in the off-campus series, I just go back to the mistake and I'm like, this doesn't even compare. It does not compare with John, Logan, and Grace. So yes, once again, I am in the minority when it comes to this book, but that's fine because more for me, and I just really wanted to have a physical copy on my shelves because I do want to reread this at some point. I don't think I'm going to reread it this year, but maybe sometime in 2023. And I might end up getting a physical copy of The Deal too, because I actually really did enjoy The Deal. I loved Garrett, and I felt like Garrett really made the story. I did not care for Hannah that much. I felt like she was low-key kind of a pick-me and just like gave off that I'm not like other girls girl, and I couldn't deal with it. But Garrett, we love Garrett. Garrett is a great book boyfriend. I might end up getting the physical copy of that book too, but I need to get one of The Mistake because this book, creme de la creme, top tier. Okay, so now we're going to move into the thrillers, and the first book that I have here is Dare Me by Meg Abbott. So, okay. I have to talk about this book for a second. Let me explain why I have this book. I loved the Dare Me show on Netflix. I thought that that show was excellent. It was excellent. You got cheerleading, which I love. I am a huge cheerleading fan, but you also have drama, cattiness, and murder mixed in with the world of cheerleading. And I just found that premise so fascinating, and the formula for it worked really well for me. You could tell that I was the niche targeted audience for Dare Me. I'm really upset that USA Network canceled this show, which in turn led Netflix to obviously canceling the show too and not updating it with the season 2. And I looked up why the USA Network canceled this, and apparently they want to focus more on reality TV shows, which, like, fine, but at the same time, why couldn't Netflix pick this up and like give it a season 2? Because the season 1 finale of this show ended off on a crazy cliffhanger that we will never get a resolution to or closure for, and I'm just really upset about that. Like, I'm still mourning Dare Me, if you couldn't tell. So when I was on pangobooks, I remember that Dare Me was a book first before it became a TV show. I did not know that at the time, but when I was looking into why Dare Me got canceled, I came across the fact that this was a book to TV adaptation. So I went on pangobooks, searched this book up, and I found it, and I got this for about like $5 or $6, and this condition is brand new. I also love the fact that it has the TV tie-in. I know a lot of people don't like the TV or movie tie-in on the covers, but depending on what it is, I don't mind, because like I said, I loved the show. So the reason why I got this book was because I wanted to watch season 1 of Dare Me again and then go back and read this book. That way I can figure out what we would have got for season 2, essentially. And that's how my mind works, and that's how my mind and logic was working when I came across this book on pangobooks. Either way, I'm really happy that I have this book in my collection, and I'm not sure when I'm going to get to it, but at least I have it now, and this will hopefully give me the closure that I am desperately looking for to the Dare Me series. Something in the Water by Catherine Stedman. So I saw the cover for this book in Target quite a few times, but I never picked it up, and I don't know why, because when I read the synopsis on pangobooks, I was hooked, and I knew that this is going to be a thriller right at my alley. So this story follows a couple named Aaron and Mark, and Aaron is a documentary filmmaker and Mark is a investment banker, but they are passionately in love, and they decide to go on their dream honeymoon destination to the island of Bora Bora. When they end up getting there, they obviously decide to do excursions and explore the island, and they actually end up going scuba diving. But when they go scuba diving, I'm assuming that this excursion turns deadly and sinister, because right here it says they find something in the water, ... I don't know if it's a creature or a shark or something along those lines, but I am really excited to read this one. I probably won't get to it until next summer, or if I'm really craving a summer book, but I just think that this is going to be really entertaining and fast-paced and gripping. And the last thriller that I have here is The Wives by Taryn Fisher. So I actually don't know anything about this book. I really only came across it because when I was on the app, I was looking for books written by Taryn Fisher, because I read An Honest Lie by this author, and I really loved An Honest Lie. Honestly, I think one of my favorite books of the year. I know, controversial opinion, another hot take, because a lot of people did not care for that story, but I did. And so from that point on, I knew I wanted to read more Taryn Fisher books to see if she was going to be a one-hit author for me, or if I actually really do enjoy her stories and she becomes a favorite of mine. So on the front it says, how far would you go to find the truth about your husband? Imagine that your husband has 2 other wives. You've never met the other wives. None of you know each other. And because of this unconventional arrangement, you can see your husband only 1 day a week. But you love him so much you don't care. Or at least that's what you told yourself. But one day, while you're doing laundry, you find a scrap of paper in his pocket, an appointment reminder for a woman named Hannah, and you just know it's another of the wives. You thought you were fine with your arrangement, but you can't help yourself. You track her down, and under false pretenses, you strike up a friendship. Hannah has no idea who you really are. Then Hannah starts showing up to your coffee dates with telltale bruises, and you realize she's being abused by her husband, who of course is also your husband, but you've never known him to be violent, ever. Who exactly is your husband, and how far would you be willing to go to find out? And who is his mysterious third wife? That sounds really interesting. I know that this is one of Taryn Fisher's more popular books, so I can't wait to dive into this one to see how I feel about it and if it lives up to an honest lie for me. I'm really happy that I found this one on pangobooks, and this was actually a book of the month pick from December 2019. So going back in the archives a little bit, but that's fine. The next book that I have here, I feel like is going to be a huge surprise to my longtime subscribers because it is a fantasy. I know, a fantasy, wow, a fantasy book in Taya's Hall. That's crazy. But the book that I'm referring to is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Y'all, I know. Another popular BookTok book that has somehow made its way over into my channel and my corner of the internet. But you know what? I'm not mad at it. I cannot resist wanting to read this book any longer because I just see so many people talking about this book up and down on my Bookstagram feed, as well as Booktube and BookTok. And I also seen people that I have similar reading tastes to that don't typically read fantasy read this book and said that they loved it and they recommend picking it up. So you know what? I'm gonna give it a try and see if the girls are right and go from there. I have no idea what this story is even about. I just saw this on pangobooks for a decent price. You might not be able to tell, but this book is actually really beat up, like really beat up, but I got it for a decent price. It was only about like maybe $5 or $6, so I was like, why not? I know that because this book series is so popular, it is like really hard to get this book at a affordable price, I feel like, even on pangobooks. So I'm not mad at the fact that it's beat up. Like if I end up really enjoying the series, and obviously I will buy, like, you know, the entire series in new condition, but for now this will suffice. So like I said, I have no idea what this is about. I just know that this is a BookTok darling. I'm gonna read the synopsis, but I just wanted to let you know that I do not know how to pronounce the characters' names, so bear with me. But right here on the back it says, when 19-year-old Huntress Fair kills a wolf in the woods, a terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows about only from legends, Fair discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal immortal fairies who once ruled her world. At least he's not a beast all the time. As she adapts to her new home, her feelings for the fairy Tamlin transform from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But something is not right in the fairylands. An ancient wicked shadow is growing, and Fair must find a way to stop it or doom Tamlin and his world forever. So even reading that synopsis, this still does not sound like a book that I would go out of my way to pick up, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to have an open mind. And now after going through that synopsis too, I remember people saying that this is like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it has a lot of smut. So we'll see how this goes. I'm not like the biggest fan of Beauty and the Beast, but I'm also not offended by it. So yeah, I will definitely let you guys know my thoughts on this book. I'm not sure if I'm going to film a reading vlog or not, but definitely make sure you subscribe to my channel as well as follow me on Bookstagram, because I will definitely be updating you guys on my thoughts about this book. The first book that I wanted to show you guys that will also be a great segue into those special editions is Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. Actually 19 chapters into this book, and I am filming an entire reading vlog where I read this book and then one of these other fantasies over here, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But this story is so good, y'all. Like, I'm eating it up. I'm actually just going to read the synopsis on the back. I feel like it's just easier compared to me trying to put this into my own words, because there's actually a lot going on with this story, but in a good way. So on the back here it says, Simi prayed to the gods once. Now she serves them as Mamiwata, a mermaid, collecting the souls of those who die at sea and blessing their journeys back home. But when a living boy is thrown overboard, Simi goes against an ancient decree and does the unthinkable. She saves his life. And punishment awaits those who dare to defy the gods. To protect the other Mamiwata, Simi must journey to the Supreme Creator to make amends. But all is not as it seems. There's the boy she rescued who knows more than he should. Then there's something shadowing Simi, something that would rather see her fail. And if Simi should fail, she risks not only the fate of all Mamiwata, but also the world as she knows it. So yes, this story is about a mermaid, in particular a black mermaid, because this is a West African mythology tale, and I am obsessed with it, you guys. The history that is woven throughout the story, but also just the West African mythology is so captivating and so interesting that I cannot wait to do more research about it when I'm finished this book, because there are so many different things that were brought up in this story that I have never heard of before when it comes to West African mythology. And like I said, I just found it so captivating and so cool. I'm not the hugest fan of mythology. Like, I haven't read all of the most like notable and epic tales when it comes to the genre, I guess, or subgenre. I'm not really sure, but I'm definitely enjoying this West African mythology tale too. And the gods that are mentioned here and like their roles and what they do and how they protect their people is just so good. It's so good. Because Simi does collect the souls of those who are thrown overboard, this book does really go into detail about the transatlantic slave trade. The people that are thrown overboard are those who are enslaved. And so Natasha Bowen does give you some history and some background on the transatlantic slave trade, as well as just what it might have been like to be upon a slave ship and the horrors and the devastation that has come from slavery. This book is really heavy. It is very emotionally charged. I have choked up a few times reading some of the stuff that is incorporated in this book, but it is so powerful and so well done that I cannot recommend this book enough. I'm not even finished it yet, but I can already tell that this is going to be a 5-star book for me because it has not only Black mermaids, which is my brand, but it also has Black history woven throughout it. So I definitely recommend picking up this book if you're interested in what I just said, but also just pick it up in general because it's just really good. Natasha Bowen deserves all the praise, but once I found out that this book followed a Black mermaid, I was sold. I don't think anyone's more excited than me when it comes to the live action Little Mermaid. Like, I love mermaids so much. I have always loved mermaids since I was a kid, and so to read about it in this way from a representation lens in terms of like, again, a Black mermaid, I just feel super connected to the story, and I can't wait to see how this series rounds out. The second book is called Soul of the Deep. I do not have Soul of the Deep yet. I will be ordering that soon, especially because I am going to be finishing this book today, so I need to make sure I have it. Okay, and I feel like this is a great segue into these special editions that I have here, and the first special edition that I wanted to show you guys is Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. Once I ordered this book and realized that I was probably going to like the story a lot more than I anticipated, I was proactive and I looked up special editions of this book because I know Owlcrate and Illumicrate, I'm pretty sure is the other name. They do special editions of certain fantasy books. So I went on pangobooks to see if they had them, and they did. And I am obsessed with this edition, you guys. Like, y'all don't understand how much I just want to stare at this edition all day. I definitely plan on displaying this on my bookshelf as soon as I'm done this video, but I will show you guys a better close-up of this book in the next few clips because y'all just have to see. You have to see for yourselves. The gold sprayed edges are absolutely stunning. The dust jacket itself is stunning, and you can see that this dust jacket is a different color than the paperback. So the paperback is more of like an indigo ocean blue, and this one is definitely more of an aquamarine teal color. So I love both, but I just love the special edition of this one because, like I said, it has the gold sprayed edges, it has a beautiful dust jacket, and then you'll see in the close-up, of course, but it also just has this beautiful geode inspired hardback. This also has gorgeous artwork of Simi in the inside flap. And because I love the artwork so much, I definitely think I'm going to reverse this book and have Simi showing on the front, just because if I was a mermaid, that's exactly what I would want to look like, okay? So yeah, shout out to the illustrators and the designers for this special edition because they truly snapped. They really did. And I'm really happy that I have this now. I actually only paid, I think, about $20 for this book, which to me isn't bad at all, especially because this is a signed edition, and I was not expecting this to be signed. I don't think I saw that in the listing when I first bought it. I just saw the artwork and I just saw the actual like hardback, and I was like, well, I need it. I don't really care if I end up liking the story or not. I just know that I need it on my shelf, and that's what happened here. And the last book that I have here is another beautiful special edition, and it is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. So this book has been on my radar since last year, or at least when this book I think first published. I can't remember when, but this book has been on my radar and on my TBR for a while. I haven't mentioned it in videos or anything like that because I still couldn't decide if I really wanted to pull the trigger and fully commit to buying the book and reading it, but I always had it in the back of my mind. I just love the actual like cover of this book, and similar to Skin of the Sea, I will show you in a few clips what this special edition actually looks like. But can we take a minute to at least appreciate the cover because wow, stunning. Talk about gagged. Like, I'm obsessed with it. The colors are so vibrant, and I just love the way that the main character Dika looks on the cover. Like, she ate. So this story actually follows a 16-year-old girl named Dika, and Dika lives in this village where they have a blood ceremony, and this blood ceremony is to essentially prove who is pure and who is impure. And so they end up pricking your blood, and if your blood ends up running red, then that means that you're pure. But if your blood ends up running gold, not only does that mean that you are impure, but it also means that your life is now at risk, because the villagers do not like anybody that has this gold blood. And so before Dika can really like decide her next move and what she should do, she gets approached by this woman that tells her that there are other girls that are like Dika that have gold blood, but they fight in this army for the emperor. And so she tells Dika that she should go like live out her life there and become a warrior for this emperor and his army. And so I think at first Dika's not really like, you know, feeling it. She doesn't want to leave the only world that she's ever known, but she obviously has no choice. And so she decides to travel, I think, to like the capital or wherever the emperor lives, and decides to fight in his army. And so you follow Dika as well as these other girls on this journey of them just trying to grapple with the fact that they are an outcast in their society and that they are different than their peers, and how they're going to move forward with this new reality. So at first when I heard the synopsis, I was intrigued, not enough to, like I said, pick up an actual copy, but the more I started to sit on it and think about it, I was like, you know what, that does sound kind of interesting, so let me just add it to my cart and see what this book is giving. I'm never gonna know unless I try. And so I am really happy that I have this now. This is another Owl Crate edition, and this is also signed, and I also received the author's note from Namina Forna, and she pretty much just talks about her process for writing this book and why this book is so important to her. And I'm really happy that I did read the author's note, because I could have gathered that information, I'm sure, once I started reading the book, but Namina talked about how this book really is like a feminist novel, and it really just talks about the brutality that young girls and women have to sometimes go through throughout life. So I know that I'm at least going to like this book for that alone. I am really excited to see how this all turns out and to see if I'm actually going to end up enjoying this book like 100%. But I am a little nervous because in the author's note, Namina talks about how this book is very brutal and there is a lot of violence in it, because obviously Dika and these girls are warriors and they are fighting in this war. And so I'm a little nervous about that aspect. I'm going to suck it up and push through, because I really want to read this book and form my own opinion on it. And if I am going to read fantasy books, I really do want to start out with like Black fantasy authors and see what it's giving. I'm not sure how I'm going to display this one on my bookshelf, but I'll figure it out. All right, y'all, and these are all of the books that I bought from pangobooks recently, and I'm really going to try to put myself on an actual book buying ban now, because I really don't need all of these books. Like, I don't even have the space for all of these, and my TBR cart is getting filled once again. So I really need to like delete the app for a while, or not delete the app, because I am still technically like an active seller, so I can't do that. But I really do need to limit my time browsing and like adding books to my cart and my wish list, because I truly do not need any more books. And if I am going to get more books, then I need to make sure that I am unhauling a good amount each time. And I really don't want to get rid of any of the books on my bookshelves right now, because I love everything that I have. So I really need to slow down. So yeah. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me and my channel out. And lastly, please make sure you follow me on Bookstagram as well as Storygraph. I will leave all of that information linked down below, as well as at the end of the video, like I always do. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.